In this daily drop, I'm going to be looking at the Govee Curtain Light again, and more specifically, starting to figure out how I might be able to use it for IBL or image-based lighting. So let's go. All right, it's official. It is the first episode of the Daily Drop for 2024. I'm back in the barn getting myself into trouble, and Happy New Year to all of you. And what I wanted to do today was a little bit of a follow-up to my last episode on this product, the Govee Curtain Light, and start to dig a little bit deeper into the Govee Home app and see if there's anything I could do that had something to do with image-based lighting. Now, you're supposed to be able to load GIFs into the app. I've started to figure out some of that, but I stumbled upon something else that I thought was very interesting related to image-based lighting. And what is image-based lighting? Well, if you think about virtual production, and let's say behind me there was a large LED wall, or even a green screen that was going to be keyed and then replaced with something in post, image-based lighting is the idea of taking that environment that the person is supposed to be immersed in and making it more realistic from a lighting perspective. So a good example of that might be that behind me, there's a burning fire. There's a building on fire. Now, obviously, that would wrap around the space. So you might be using something like Kino Flo Mimics or Quasar's rainbow tubes and feeding video imagery to those devices, to those LEDs, and then augmenting the lighting for the space and adding to it in a way that it makes it feel more realistic, as if the person were in that environment. Now, that's not what the curtain light is, but I'm thinking that there's some things that can be done, and there's some other things I'm looking into right now. For instance, there's something that's available with LED strip lights where you put a camera onto your television. It's taking a feed of that imagery and then matching it with those LEDs. That's a whole separate subject, but let's just take a look at this. And when I cut to this screen down here, the exposure is going to be a lot different, because if you can see here, I have the screen turned all the way down so that you can actually see it, because these screens are so bright. And what I have here is the Govee Curtain app. I'm just going to go ahead and turn on the curtain. And then the key to the castle for what I'm going to show you today is down here under DIY or do it yourself. And I'm going to go ahead and create essentially a new do it yourself screen. So I'm going to go into here. So I'm just going to go over here to the top right and press on the plus symbol. And I'm going to give this a name. So we'll just call it Sky. And then I'm going to go down here, and if you watch the other episode, there's a very interesting way where you can essentially assign each one of these LEDs, these chips behind me, that each one has RGB diodes inside of it. And you can basically assign what color each one's going to be. But we're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of doing that, we're going to go over here, and we are going to load an actual image that is going to essentially occupy or fill the curtain itself. So I'm going to go over here. I can either do an online album or my album. I'm going to choose my album. I have one image in here of a sunset, and I can move it around and decide what part of the image I want to use. Let's just say that for today. That's fine. And I'll just say okay. And you'll see that that image is now filling this space for the curtain. And if I press apply, it's going to apply the default movement. And let me just go ahead and do that. And you can take a look at what that looks like. But let's say I wanted it to move a little bit differently. I'll just go ahead and choose this. And let's increase the speed here and press apply. And you'll see that it's now moving from one side to the other in a loop. And I could make that even faster and apply that. And I think you're starting to get the idea. We're using a still image here, but we are using the feature that they have inside of the app to create movement that is moving across If I wanted it to go very slowly, I could apply it like that. Obviously, I could make it static as well. But to me, this is a start. It is one way that I think you might be able to use an inexpensive product like this. I still wish this was RGB WW, so we had real whites inside of each of those chips to approximate white light more accurately, but still pretty exciting. And I'm going to probably start to go down this rabbit hole a little bit more and see what I can figure out. So that's the next evolution of my progress related to this. I'll see if it even makes sense to do animated GIFs. I think the downside to that is you'd want a really long loop for it to be more realistic, and maybe just this with a still image and speed might be a better way to go. I don't know. Don't forget to, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.